These scenes are from the presidential palace of Sri Lanka. These protesters are here from across the island, demanding just one thing. That is the resignation of their president, Gotabay Rajpaksha. The protesters want Rajpaksha gone for leading their country into an economic crisis. And they succeeded.
The country's president Gotabay Rajpaksha and the Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe have agreed to resign.
The man at the center of the storm has left for Maldives along with his wife and 2 bodyguards.
Right now, the opposition parties of Sri Lanka are discussing plans to elect a new president. But deep down, everyone knows that whoever becomes the next president, the people of Sri Lanka will have to face hardships for the next couple of years before things slowly start getting better. Seeing people of Sri Lanka in distress, some concerned Indians asked whether the Indian government should help Sri Lanka by merging it with their own country. And are Indians okay with taking Sri Lanka as one of its states? The response to both of these questions was an overwhelming no. Indians are willing to support Sri Lanka with cash and humanitarian aid like they have been doing so far, but making Sri Lanka part of their own country is something that they do not support. Still, I thought it would be interesting to explore if it is beneficial for Sri Lanka to become part of India, and why are Indians so against this idea. To answer both of these questions, we first need to understand the economic crisis Sri Lanka is going through right now. Right now, Sri Lanka is suffering from what is called a twin deficit crisis. It means that Sri Lankan government is spending more money on its people than the tax it is receiving from them. This is called fiscal deficit. At the same time, the island is also importing more goods and services than it is exporting to the rest of the world. This is called current account deficit. In a globalized world, countries with twin deficits are very common. Even US spends more money on its people than it receives from them. At the same time, it also imports more goods from countries like China than it exports to the rest of the world. If that's the case, then why is there no crisis in US? Some of you may ask. There is no crisis in America because the government there earns enough money in taxes from people and businesses to keep the country running smoothly. US also exports a lot of services like Facebook and McDonald's, so the country gets good money from abroad as well. Sri Lanka, on the other hand, is in a twin deficit crisis because of bad geography, bad economics, and bad luck. Let me explain. If you have ever been on an island vacation, you will definitely know that everything on an island is brought from mainland on ships and flights. Same is with Sri Lanka. Because of its geography and lack of natural resources, Sri Lanka has to import almost everything it needs from abroad, which it did using foreign currency that it got from foreign tourists, as well as many foreign loans that it took. In 2019, however, there were a series of terrorist attacks across Sri Lanka, killing nearly 300 people, including 45 foreigners. These attacks were called the Easter bombings, after which foreign tourism to Sri Lanka declined by 50%, severely hurting the livelihood on the island. After the attacks, Sri Lankans did what they could do at the time. They voted. They voted the then President Maithripal Sirisena out of office and brought in Gotabay Rajpaksha with a huge majority. The first thing Rajpaksha did after assuming office was that he lowered and in some cases removed direct and indirect taxes to bring relief to the people and businesses. He thought that by cutting taxes on certain goods and services like hotels, guest house and restaurants, things would become cheaper, therefore attracting more tourists to the island. As a result, eventually reviving the Sri Lankan economy. Rajpaksha implemented the new tax rates in December of 2019. And as luck would have it, in the same month, the first case of coronavirus was reported in Wuhan, China. Soon, tourists stopped coming to Sri Lanka altogether, therefore cutting off country's flow of foreign currency. This has created a situation in Sri Lanka where it is unable to import even the most essential of goods, like food, oil and medicine, because it does not have enough foreign currency. And the foreign currency is not coming to the island because tourists are not visiting. First, this was because of COVID, and now it is because of this. In May this year, the new Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe did increase taxes to get some more revenue to run the government. But people cannot pay taxes because they are not earning enough. And why are they not earning enough? Because tourists are not coming on the island. This is the vicious cycle Sri Lanka is stuck in right now. Except for tourism, the previous Rajpaksha governments did not bother investing in high-tech services like IT, finance and animations. Instead, they used the loan money that they got from World Bank, IMF and open markets to run their schools and hospitals. It is like taking a loan with high interest, not to run a business, but to buy one's daily groceries. Since 2009, the Rajpaksha government has also been spending loan money that it took from countries like China to build unnecessary infrastructure projects, like the infamous Hambantota port and things like these. I mean, if they wanted a giant lotus, they should have asked Narendra Modi. He would have given one for free. Anyways, Sri Lanka is now in a lot of debt and it now has to pay interest on all the loans it took over the years. Also, since 1965, IMF has bailed out Sri Lanka 12 times. Today, if IMF gives Sri Lanka another bailout loan, there is still no guarantee that foreign travelers will return to the island and business will start running. Meanwhile, the terms and conditions of an IMF bailout will squeeze the life out of common Sri Lankans, and new businesses will take years to grow. In such depressing scenarios, some Indians are suggesting that Sri Lanka should merge with India. According to them, by becoming part of India, Sri Lankans will get immediate relief from scarcity of food, medicine and fuel, as they won't have to import all of these things from abroad now. The tourism business on the island will also get an immediate boost because of massive inflow of tourists from across India as well as abroad. The youth of the country will get better opportunities in education as well as in companies all over India. In the long run, Indian companies can open their factories and offices on the island as well, creating variety of job opportunities for the local people too. The only complaint with this arrangement will be from Sri Lanka's fishermen and farmers. Right now, the Sri Lankan fishermen are protected under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This treaty gives every country exclusive rights to fish within 12 nautical miles from its shoreline. By becoming a part of India, Sri Lankan fishermen will lose this protection and they will have to directly compete with Indian fishermen who have bigger and more advanced fishing boats. Similar would be the situation for Sri Lankan farmers. Except for people growing high-value crops like tea, coffee and rubber, small farmers will have to directly compete with low-cost food grains from Punjab and Haryana. Overall, merging with India seems like a good deal for Sri Lanka. But it is the Indians who don't see it as a good deal for themselves. Next year, India is most likely to become world's most populous country, and people here are in no mood to share their resources with another 21 million people. Indians are also skeptical about whether Sri Lankans will be able to integrate into Indian society. India has a lot of different cultures and religions, and they all live in harmony. Sri Lanka, on the other hand, had a 26-year-old civil war based on racial and religious lines. And Indian people don't know how Sri Lankans will fit into India's chaotic diversity. The Indian government is also unwilling to even consider interfering in Sri Lanka's internal matters, as it has already learned its lesson by trying to resolve the Sri Lanka civil war in the 80s. That also explains why Indian embassy in Sri Lanka is actively squashing rumors of an Indian intervention in the crisis. Also, the current BJP government in India is trying to cut fat. They are selling government companies, reducing number of soldiers in the army, and digitalizing anything that can be digitalized to make a more leaner and effective government. They too will be unwilling to take liability of governing a whole new country, especially one deep in debt to India's new archenemy. Even though the people of India and Sri Lanka have similar cultures, Indians have always seen the island as a separate nation with a separate national identity. Even Lord Ram from the Indian epic Ramayana did not take over Sri Lanka after defeating its king, Ravan. Instead, he gave the kingdom to Ravan's younger brother. Personally, I have complete faith in people of Sri Lanka. I know that they are strong and smart and they will come out of this crisis victoriously. And we the Indian people are always there for them. Thank you everyone for coming out to Millennia Carta. My name is Ritvik and I will see you soon.